Hey, welcome back to day 21 of Project Me. It's been a few days, but here I am. I realized it was day 21 when I made this video, and I thought, well, it's time for a little pat on the back for doing 3 weeks worth of videos for this project that I've created for myself. And it's not been easy these last few weeks since I've started this. Quite difficult in many ways, not necessarily this project, but just what's been going on around and dealing with the things in my head, which is precisely why I made this to begin with. But, I just want to take a second to reflect on these 21 days and congratulate myself for sticking with it. I made a promise to myself that I'd do this, and I've delivered. So just need to take a second to acknowledge that win, that little win for me. It's very good for that. And that's also led me to reflect a little bit on these videos as a whole and this project. And the first thing I want to talk about in that sense is reflecting on the project. So first of all, I think I'm going to start reorganizing these videos, make them more specific. And the reason I do that is because at the beginning I made 3 promises. 1, to be as efficient and eloquent with my words as I possibly can. 2, to post 4 or 5 times a week. And 3, what was that third one? Oh yeah, to be genuine, to never cut down on these videos, never do restarts, all that. And so far, I think I've delivered on all of them except for being direct and eloquent and concise with the words. And that's not to say I failed in that respect, but I feel like these videos are too long. It has never been my intention to make a video longer than 15 minutes. And yet that seems to be quite often. So I need to fix that. And the way we're going to do that is by trying to narrow the focus of these videos. And having just thought about it, I think the best way of doing that is to keep it to one main theme when I talk about the day's events for the last few days. So I'm not going to talk about every random thing that's happened. I'm going to try and pick on one thing that's made me feel a certain way, why it made me feel a certain way, and how we can move forward. All right, and then we'll get on to, if we have time, self-reflection, and of course gratitude. That gratitude will be present every single day because I still think it's a very important thing to have, even if I often struggle with it, rightly or wrongly. Usually wrongly. There's so much to be grateful for, and it's just sometimes a little bit difficult to adjust your eyes to the light. But yes, so choosing a theme for today, it's going to be purpose, finding purpose. And we're going to start off with an event that's been very repetitive in this series, and that is waking up early, getting out of bed, and doing something productive. Usually when I've talked about it, it's in the sense of doing a run, for example, going for a little 5K run. And it's been a problem for a while because maybe the issue is it's just so damn cold when I wake up. I'm in a student flat, so can I afford heating? No. So I wake up and God, I'm shivering, like even in my sheets, and I just have no desire to get out of bed at all. And for that reason, I often don't now. It didn't used to be a problem when it was warm. And so, for example, today, huge failure on my part to get out of bed. I actually missed a tutorial because I just stayed in bed. Hugely disappointing in that regard. And yeah, no excuses for that, genuinely. Because when the conscious mind kicks in, it goes, well, what the hell were you thinking? Who cares if it was cold? You should have gotten out of bed and gotten to work. You can't pride yourself in having a great work ethic when you go around and do things like this when you're not being careful, right? But it's a fine line because also I don't want to be overly harsh on myself. I need to recognize that what I did was not okay, and I can't be doing that. But I also need to know that, hey, there's only so much I can do in the early morning when I'm trying to wrestle with my subconscious mind. I'm not fully conscious. I can't think how I should be thinking, and that's okay. It's because I've just woken up, you know. But that said, I need to get into the habit of getting out of bed. And I've been really grappling with that question for the last few weeks. And one of the things I've realized is that I am missing a purpose, right? And that statement is very ambiguous. You can interpret that in a lot of different ways. But for me, in my case, I'm missing this overarching goal, element, whatever it may be, that gets me out of bed in the morning. You know, I've got nothing to excite me, which is a very sad thing to think. You know, there's so much to be excited about. You know, the fact that I get to wake up every day is a privilege. It's just really hard to recognize that and choose something that really resonates with me as a reason to forsake the warmth of my covers and run headfirst into the cold. You know, it's definitely been a challenge. Definitely. And so, of course, the next question is, how do I find my purpose? The answer is I don't know. I don't have an answer. For me, for anyone. And that's fundamentally, I think, the thing that's hardest to swallow, is that you can't just find your purpose. But you can't also just kind of sit there idly waiting for it to come to you, because then it definitely won't. You know? And so, of course, there's that gap of, I know I can't just do nothing. I can't just wait for it to come to me. But I also don't know about how to get it. I don't know how to go about it. And, you know, I've heard some people say, you know, envision your dream life. You know, make a dream board or something. It's something I'm willing to try. I definitely am. I've also in the past tried journaling. You know, what my ideal life would look like. But even so, I don't really know. I think for me, a major factor in this lack of purpose is that I don't have anyone to wake up for. I very much crave human connection. And it's something that I feel like I don't have. You know, I've got lots of friends, but I feel so alone most of the time. And that's not a complaint. I want to be very clear, that's not a complaint. I make a very conscious choice not to talk to people about how I feel most of the time, or what's going on with me most of the time. Because I don't feel... There's a lot of reasons why. I'm not really going to go into them, because it's a whole other can of worms. But why I interact the way I do with other people. And that goes back to a lot of subconscious and, you know, fears and irrational fears that I have, that we'll talk about, or that you've already heard me talk about before. But the point I'm trying to make is... I lost my train of thought there for a second. I apologize. I'll just pause it for a second while I think of it. I was trying to say that there's a reason I don't talk, you know, about what's going on in here to many people. And without getting into the reasons why, the fact is that it leaves me very alone, you know, emotionally speaking. It feels like I lack human connection. And maybe that's because, well, it's hard being single, it's hard being in a relationship. Either way, it's hard. But at the very least, in a relationship, you are able to have, in an ideal relationship, at least in my view, you're able to have someone who you can fully emotionally connect with, someone you're fully comfortable talking to. And I lack that, unfortunately. I don't have anyone I can just walk up to and share exactly how I'm feeling that day, what's happened, and that I actually want to speak to as well. That's a major thing, wanting to speak to someone about what's going on. And the way this all ties into purpose is, for me, more than, you know, some ambitious goal for out in the future, I need someone to get me out of bed. It's not something to get me out of bed, it's someone. you know? And like there was this girl last year. I fell head over heels for her. She's just wonderful. She got me out of bed in the morning, even if she didn't realize it. It's been really tough for a while because things happened and I didn't get the girl. And that was a real struggle for a while. But for a while it was also a blessing because it got me out of bed. I was willing to make myself a better person for her. Even though I should be doing it without her. I should be trying to become a better person regardless. But it was a much more conscious effort when she was a motivating factor. Just trying to nostalgia, I suppose. But I'm missing that. I'm missing that X factor that makes me want to get out of bed. So that's purpose. Search for purpose, I think, is so important because it drives everything else you do. If you have a purpose, you can align your life around it. It's easier to set boundaries when you have a purpose. Because you can, if something doesn't align with the direction you're trying to go in, it's much easier to put a wall between it than if you don't know where you're going, right? Because then if you don't know where you're going, you're kind of splitting yourself off, you're ripping yourself apart into a bunch of different directions. And of course, that leads to your attention being divided, and that comes with a whole other range of problems. You might give more attention to things that don't deserve it. Like, for example, in my experience, this is not for everyone, drinking. Drinking is a distraction for me. And I know I've been talking about not having a purpose and how I need to find a purpose, but I know that drinking certainly won't get me closer to where I need to go, even if I don't know where that is. I want to go, and I don't know what it is. But I know that's not helping. So I'm able to draw that boundary, but I'd be able to draw a lot more boundaries if I knew where I was heading. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in terms of purpose. When I'm on break, which is coming up, thank goodness, I will be able to think a lot more about how to come about getting a purpose, and I'll share that on these videos as well in my journey in finding purpose. But it's a little bit tricky right now. I was telling someone else today that the really hard thing about knowing whether you're growing as a person is you need time to be bored to think. You need to be bored sometimes, and I don't let myself be bored because I'm always working. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I watched a movie, I watched a movie a few weeks ago, but watched a TV show, turned on Netflix, for example, or played a game or something. It's tragic. It really is. It's unsustainable, but here we are. How long is this video been going on for? 13 minutes. We're going to wrap it up with gratitude. Plenty of time. First of all, grateful to my friend H. I called her today. She meant to call yesterday. Had a great chat with her. She brings out the philosophical side of me. It really gets. She's a very good listener for the most part. Unlike a lot of people I know, listening is a lost virtue, and I try really hard to embody it. And unfortunately, not everyone does. I wish more people did. The world would be a far better place if more people learnt the art of listening. Take it from someone who's a listener. Grateful to her. We had a great conversation. Got a lot of things out of the way. Was able to speak about some things candidly, which was nice. And just a nice catch up for how our lives are going as well. So that's quite nice. Second of all, grateful to M. She is the organizer of this little public diplomacy think tank here, and very grateful that she's involved me in the team. Absolute privilege on my part to be a part of the team and to work with her in setting up some of these events that she's organized. Tonight we had one, for example. Just really, really good. Really grateful. She wrote me a letter of recommendation a while ago for an internship in France, which would be really cool if I could get that. So we'll find out in a few weeks. Just a wonderful person. Really grateful that I've got to spend time with it. Thirdly, I am grateful to my scarf. It has been a very cold couple of days, indeed weeks, here, and that scarf has come really handy in keeping my neck and front neck warm, particularly when I'm wearing shirts like this, which are, low collar or no collar at all, and so my neck is quite bare, especially with the biting winds and the rain, as it has been the last few days. So thank goodness for the scarf. But we'll leave it there. I hope wherever you're watching from, you have a wonderful day, and look forward to the next one. Cheers.